The young girl sat quietly on the porch with her grandmother, both watching the golden hues of the setting sun. After a while, the girl turned and asked, her voice soft and uncertain, "Grandma, do you ever feel like you're not good enough? Like no matter what you do, something about you is just wrong?" Grandma looked at her with warm, understanding eyes and replied, "Oh, my dear, everyone feels that way sometimes. But you know, your question reminds me of a story I once heard. It's about a cracked pot." The girl tilted her head, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "A cracked pot?" she repeated. Grandma smiled knowingly. "Yes. It's an old story, but I think you'll like it. Let me tell you. Once upon a time," Grandma began, "there was an old woman who lived in a small village. Every day she would walk down to the river with two large clay pots to collect water. She carried the pots on a wooden pole balanced across her shoulders. One of the pots was perfect. It held water perfectly without spilling a drop. But the other pot had a small crack in it. By the time the old woman reached her house, the cracked pot would have leaked half of its water along the way. For a long time the cracked pot felt terrible. It knew it wasn't doing its job properly and felt ashamed that it could only deliver half of what it was meant to. Every day it compared itself to the perfect pot and thought of itself as useless. One day, as the old woman carried water home, the cracked pot couldn't stay silent any longer. It finally spoke up, its voice filled with sadness. "I'm so sorry," the pot said. "I feel terrible. I only deliver half the water I'm supposed to, while the other pot always gives you the full amount. I feel like I've failed you." The old woman stopped walking and looked at the pot with a kind smile. "Have you noticed the flowers growing along the path on your side?" she asked gently. The pot was confused. "What do you mean?" The old woman continued walking slowly and said, "Look down at the ground on your side of the path." As they walked, the pot looked down. To its surprise, it saw bright, colorful flowers blooming along its side of the path. The cracked pot stared in wonder as the old woman explained, "I've always known about your crack. In fact, I planted flower seeds along your side of the path because I knew your water would nourish them. Because of you, I've been able to enjoy these lovely flowers every day. Your imperfection made something beautiful." The cracked pot was stunned. For so long, it had seen its crack as a flaw. But now, it realized it had been helping to create beauty all along. As Grandma finished the story, the young girl sat quietly, deep in thought. Her eyes were wide with realization. "So, the cracked pot wasn't useless after all?" she asked. "No, my dear," Grandma replied gently. "Sometimes the things we see as flaws or imperfections can lead to something wonderful. The cracked pot thought it was failing, but it was actually creating beauty all along. It just didn't know." The girl looked down, twiddling her fingers nervously. "I guess, maybe it's the same with people, right? Maybe the things we don't like about ourselves can still be good for something." "Exactly," Grandma said, her voice full of warmth. "We all have our cracks, our little imperfections. But often, those are the things that make us unique, the things that allow us to bring something special into the world. It's just like the flowers along the path. The world is more beautiful because of our so-called flaws." The girl smiled softly, feeling a little lighter. "I like that, Grandma. Maybe I'm not as broken as I thought." Grandma reached over and patted her hand gently. "You're not broken at all, my dear. You're just like that cracked pot, doing more good than you might ever realize." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the young girl leaned against Grandma's shoulder, the story of the cracked pot filling her heart with comfort and a new sense of understanding. If you like this story, please like and share and subscribe the channel for next video. See you in next video. Stay happy.